Hey everybody, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for some more time right here in God's Word. I want to give a shout out today to Marcus Peter from Glenpool, Oklahoma. Marcus, thank you so much for being a member of our website. I pray that our videos and lessons help you to grow in your faith. Today I'm going to be reading from Nehemiah chapter 13, our last chapter, verses 4 through 9. Interesting moment. It reads, "Now before this, Eliashib the priest, who was appointed over the chambers of the house of our God," in other words, he oversaw a select portion of things that happened in the temple, "who was related to Tobiah," you probably remember that name from the earlier chapters of Nehemiah, he was an enemy, "prepared for Tobiah." So Eliashib prepared for Tobiah a large chamber where they had previously put the grain offering, the frankincense, the vessels, and the tithes of grain, wine, and oil, which were given by commandment to the Levites, singers, and gatekeepers, and the contributions for the priests. What in the living world? That's not in the text I'm not reading right now. Well, what has this guy done? It's crazy. While this was taking place, I, Nehemiah, was not in Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, I went to the king, and after some time, I asked leave of the king and came back to Jerusalem, and I then discovered the evil that Eliashib had done for Tobiah, preparing for him a chamber in the courts of the house of God. Preposterous. And I was very angry, and rightly so, by the way. I was very angry, and I threw all the household furniture of Tobiah out of the chambers. Sounds like a bad divorce, doesn't it? Then I gave orders, and they cleansed the chambers. They hosed this thing down. And I brought back the vessels of the house of God with the grain offering and the frankincense. So these verses here tell us about a religious leader who is completely compromised. Eliashib, not just a priest, by the way, but a high priest who directed the chambers of God, had a grandson, as we know, a grandson who married into Tobiah's family and his influence. Now, we should all remember Tobiah. He was one of the great three enemy forces while Nehemiah was building the wall. So why? Why does Eliashib do this, given the recommitment that they just made publicly back in chapter 10? And I think there are two reasons. First, it's the absence of committed leadership. Now, it is easy I think, to discern from this text, but we see here that Nehemiah has returned to the Persian capital of Susa. So in his absence, even though he had put stop gaps in place, things began to fall apart. Now, we don't know how long Nehemiah was away, but still he discovered that in his absence, even the highest spiritual leader was unfaithful to his commitments, primarily because Eliashib was not a committed spiritual leader. Second, small relational compromises. This is the second issue. When you are entangled in the wrong relationships, you will eventually make compromising decisions. This is precisely why separation from these relationships is vital in many instances. Relational entanglements in our life are tempting for us all. Eventually, there will be a point where you will no longer have an influence on them, but they will influence you. So here is the lesson. The character and leadership of a believer are always revealed by the choices they make when left to themselves. Always. It's always when you're left to yourselves that your character is revealed. So after Nehemiah's departure, Eliashib reveals he's not a capable leader. And he is easily influenced by social politics and relational pressure. Eliashib's a failure. He is a leader without character and commitment who's going to make compromises. Even worse, he is the spiritual leader of the people of Israel. Now, for some of you reading today, this might be a little bit of a wake-up call. If so, remember who you are when no one is looking is who you are. Who you are when no one's looking is who you are. Therefore, if there is a difference or a delta between who you are in public and who you are in private, then start closing that gap today. Stop making compromises and lead with commitment. Just one private choice at a time. Integrate it. Go public with an uncompromised commitment and lead with greater integrity because Guess what? We need more great spiritual leaders today, men with integrity. Guys, I love you. I pray this has blessed you. If it has, share it with someone else. And I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.